Who does what?
And welcome
Mumbo
to
Jumbo.
Mumbo Jumbo for this
This
July-ish. It's probably about the 12th of July. I'm going to say that, roughly around there. I'm back. Yes, there's a video, another video. Wow, we're going into the swing of things now, putting videos out. I've changed back to the other mic because the mic I tried on the last video was a bit poo. So we're not using that. I'm using the other one. So hopefully this sounds better. Hello for all you new subscribers. There is a few more. Hello. And all the old subscribers and everyone else. I'm feeling much more better than I was, and which is nice. So without further ado and much fanfare and all the other nonsense, let us crack on with the video, and most importantly, of course, what I have been playing. Played! Go Ahead Punk. Get another go at that on Friday with the four chaps on Friday. Said it before, it's like Let's Whitechapel, Fury of Dracula. It is much more streamlined. It is a dice-based in that you have a lot of combat during the game. You're running around as the sniper, the Scorpio killer from Dirty Harry, essentially, with a bunch of cops trying to find you. I did say in the first play I'd had it on the Sunday is that before, was that it was really tricky. I'd really struggled as the Scorpio killer, running around trying to do the hits and survive because you're constantly on the left foot being chased, pursued. Everything you're doing is there's very little wiggle room for you to stay hidden too long, which is kind of separate to most of these games because usually these hidden identity games are staying as hidden for as long as humanly possible. It is probably closest to Let's Whitechapel because it's similar to that game in that you have to do hits, and Whitechapel, obviously, you're going around and murdering prostitutes. This one, similar idea, but it's these hits on there. So at certain points in time, when you perform one of these hits, like in Whitechapel, you then become on the map. We know when this has happened. However, you are physically bang on the map unless you can get a silencer for your rifle, in which case you can do a hit and move on. So the game, and I haven't got one of those yet. So the game is basically, as the baddie, as the sniper, you are kind of tight running to places, trying to get in a position where you can do a hit and leg it so the cops are not near you. And as I said, this is constant point of you are being pursued all the time. There isn't really a downtime very often. There was times of the game I played here that I at least managed to zig when they thought I was going to zag a few times. And I did win it. By just the thinnest margin. I quite enjoy it. I like it because it's fast, it is loose. There's a lot of combat in this game if you get stuck at certain points. So what can happen is if you're the killer and you do a hit and then the police actually kind of pile on to you, you are locked into combat until you can escape from it by rolling dice to get out of them. Now you have a larger health pool as the sniper. You have 10 health, I think it is, whereas the cops have only got 5. So if you've got the right weapons, which you can find different weapons and so can the cops during the game and things, then you could potentially take them out and survive those attacks. If you just stuck with the sniper rifle you were stuck with at the start of the game, it literally rolls one dice. You are in trouble. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's random. It is a bit crazy. I would like to play it from the perspective of the cops at some point, see what that plays like. I like this style of games. I do like this one. It is much quicker than most of those other games. It plays fast. It has the dice rolling. If you're a fan of dice rolling, then there's a lot of that in it. It does feel a little bit maybe unbalanced at certain times. I mean, there is rules in there, variants to take out certain cards to make it a bit easier to play, but we've just left all that in because what the fuck. But yeah, it is a little bit cray-cray. It does have that kind of 80s board game vibe of being a little bit wobbly on its wheels. Not quite, there's some little cracks in the foundations, but they all work to make it fun. So if you're a fan of hidden identity games, is one versus many, Let's Whitechapel, Fury of Dracula, Sniper Elite, all that sort of stuff. I think this is a really good entry into it because it's doing a sweet point that a lot of the others don't. Those games normally run long, and so far the couple of games I've played with this one doesn't. It does whip along a fair crack. And is highly entertaining. Although, as I said, quite stressful as the sniper because you are constantly being hunted down across the board, which is kind of amusing, fun, but also kind of like fraught with like, oh God! So that was good fun. I enjoyed that. That was always good. We played Survive and played that for a while, as there was 4 of us on Friday, which is just a classic. If you've not played Survive, the idea is basically it's an island made up of tiles of different sizes and different types, and it slowly shrinks throughout the game. And the idea is you have all your dudes on a map. They all have numbers underneath them. And the idea of the game is basically you've got little boats and stuff. You can sail across the island. You're trying to get off the island as fast as you can, basically, and get the big point-scoring meeples off. You don't know what the numbers are other than when you first place them on the board. So unless you can remember all of them, you're not going to. Then there's sharks attacking. There's dinosaurs, well, sea monsters, all sorts of stuff. It is wild. It is a take-that game. It is very cutthroat. It is very vicious and highly amusing, and I quite enjoyed it. At some point I need to track down the 5 to 6 player expansion actually, which I think is out of print at the moment, but enjoyed that. Then on Sunday Jamie brought along Wrymspan, which he picked up at the expo. Wrymspan it was a little while ago, there was a big furore over it because it's basically his Wingspan now with dragons. There was lots of memes and stuff on the internet when it first came out. I, for the record, am not a huge fan of Wingspan. I think mainly because the theme just totally slides off of me. It just doesn't engage with me. I'm not a massive fan of the gameplay of Wingspan. It always seems quite restrictive in the base game. I've not played with much of any of the expansions, to be fair to you, but I just kind of found that I never really kind of hit my stride with it. So this is different. It has been tweaked. It is by the designer of April, whose name is now escaping me completely. I'm presuming it will appear on the board somewhere on the here. But yeah, it's been tweaked in some ways. Now, the idea is basically similar sort of thing, is you're essentially putting like a tableau of cards out that you then activate on your turn. But this one's been thematically tweaked that you're digging out caverns to start with, what you then place your dragons into. And then the most of the rest of the mechanics are the same, you're producing eggs and doing other stuff. And you have like little adventurers you send down the caverns that trigger your row, your tableau of stuff, and depending on what the cards are. And the cards are things you will pop down. Sometimes you pop them down and they activate and give you something straight away. Sometimes they're cards that if you move your adventure over them when they're in the cavern, they will give you something. Things like that, or storing cards underneath them for points and yada, 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 yada. There's a lot of other business going on. There is another board separate to this, like a track that you're moving around if you can get certain icons on them. Which allows you to get extra bonus stuff, which I don't recall being in Wingspan, top of my head. They've done away with the tower. There's no dice in this. All the resources are generated just as they are from the cards and all that sort of stuff. For me, I enjoyed this more, and I would caveat that with probably less so to do with the theme. The theme is there, but it doesn't hang around very long. It's pretty... After a while of you playing, it kind of slides away and it more becomes down to the mechanisms of the game. You're kind of more doing that. Thematically, you can kind of go, I'm building a cave and putting dragons into it. If you squint at it, you can just about do it. But really, I found, and I think Jamie did, and I imagine most of the rest of the guys, it kind of became down to pure mechanisms of what you're doing. It pretty soon you weren't really thinking about dragons and yada, 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 yada. I will say, for the record, this does play, for me personally, on the first play, this anyway, it played better than I ever did enjoy Wingspan. I did enjoy what Wrymspan was doing. I liked the mechanisms of it. I wasn't cock-a-hoop. I wasn't ready to marry it. I would play it again. I don't think I'd pick it up. But I enjoyed it more on this play than I have previously the few plays I played at Wingspan. Say what you will on that. I don't know. But yeah, all right. It was entertaining. It all looks nice. It all fairly moves along. Yeah, it's fine, I would say on that. It is fine if you want a tableau builder and you don't want budgies in it, then there's dragons in this. And I think it's a little bit more advanced, maybe just a tweak more advanced than the Wingspan was, which is a game that a bunch of people say it's for muggles and it's for entry to point. It really isn't. It's quite involved. It's not really a game for muggles. I think the entry point is it was the birds and it was kind of a bit different. Anyway, I meander. But Wrymspan, you know what? It was all right. It's all right. If you like that sort of thing, if you've been on the fence regarding Wingspan and didn't like the theme, then maybe this will draw you in. It certainly plays better, in my opinion. And other than that, the only other thing we did is we started our new Risk Legacy campaign. Risk Legacy is a game one of the early games I played back in the day, probably getting on for 10 years ago now. It's got to be, actually. And it was one of the first breakouts that we had as a game group, which kind of sided me into doing Who Dares Rolls and stuff, because I was like, this is fantastic, we should do more of this. And many moons ago I interviewed Rob Debbio over it, which I think the interview's been lost to time now, which is a sad day. I'll have a look around and see if I can find it. Anyway, Risk Legacy takes risk and adds a shit ton of legacy elements to it. It was the first legacy game, and for my money it was always one that was a high watermark for me, because it just cracked on. It was Risk, yes, but the legacy elements, and they all worked, and they worked really well. And it had that every day's Christmas feel to it, in that you had the stuff you were opening, and everything you opened was interesting and fun, and enhanced the gameplay, and just made all the experience joyful in all its crazy ways. And I'm looking forward to playing for this again. Jamie and Tony have never played Risk Legacy. Me and Robbie had. It becomes abundantly clear that Robbie has completely forgotten anything to do with it. But yeah, I'm looking to be interested in working through the campaign on that, because I remember some of the stuff that's to come, and it was amusing. I say it's in the high watermarks of the legacy games I've played. It's up there in the top 3 for me personally. It may even edge into the first place, because it's just unadulterated fun. Fun. I mean, your mileage may vary in regard to how much you enjoy Risk, but it doesn't hang around. It's got some mechanisms in there. I mean, the games don't drag on like normal Risk games do. There's actually a victory point system in the game where you've got to get 4 of these red stars, which are gained either by taking over other people's outposts or trading in cards. So it's a game that, as I say, base vanilla Risk can run on for hours and hours and hours. And I've played games like this. This one, at least, is self-contained in that it won't, as I say, it won't wear out as welcome. And I remember as the game progresses, as you play more of the legacy, more elements come into it, which kind of evolve the game, kind of make it more exciting and abundant of joys. And as I say, they're fast games. I remember back in the day of playing it, that there were some evenings we could bang in a couple of games of Risk Legacy easy, boom, boom, and you were chasing that crack of opening an envelope, opening something. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. To come back to the table, it was really interesting to play it again. It'd be fascinating to see how this one rolls out, how the game morphs for us lot playing it. Jamie's instantly went down to turtling in Australia, so we'll see how that works out for him. Yeah, but there you go, Risk Legacy. I recommend it if you've never played it and you like Risk. I know it was, and I think it still is, was on Bargamax for about 25 quid, which is an absolute steal if you've never played it. So if you're still there for that price, about 25, 30 quid, pick it up, because it's brilliant, really good fun. So there you go, that was that. Let's do some news. Here is the news. News, quick things going on. So Spiel is on the way. Board Game Geek has put up a preview now, which is currently standing at 319 games. I did contemplate flicking through there to see if anything took my interest. I didn't. Maybe later I will. And in relation to that, there is also Gencon has now got a big list on there, which, for your delectation, I did go through and have a quick skim through the Gencon list, which is August as Gencon happens, and just have a quick look and see if there's anything tantalised me. So I'll go through quickly what I saw that jumped out at me and went, oh, that looks interesting. And here we go. So War of the Ring card game is getting another expansion. Fire and Swords plays up the game up to 5 to 6 players. I have War of the Ring. I have the base game. I haven't got any other expansions. It was one that I've been trying to play that we're going to put some stuff out on Patreon too. If I'm absolutely honest with you, we played a few games of it and then we had Frosthaven and then shit has happened and we haven't really come back to it. I do enjoy what it's doing. 5 to 6 players is interesting. I'll see how that works, because we have a higher player count on the Friday games night, and that might be something that would work quite well on that. We'll see. I caveat that with, I know Ben is not the biggest, he doesn't like Lord of the Rings and he doesn't like kind of thematic games, so whether he would actually engage, I don't know, but we'll see. Then I saw Bright Eye Games got, the dog's going to open the door, but you can't because I locked it. Ha ha! Fuck you! Ponzi Scheme. Bright Eye Games has got it. Now I thought this was coming out. Spiel is listed on the Gencon site, but I think there might be a preview on there. Ponzi Scheme's a game I played, oh God, an Aircon, probably a decade ago now it feels like, and I really enjoyed what it did. It's been out of print for ages, but the idea is basically you are creating Ponzi schemes, and it's all to do with, oh, excellent. Now the dog's thrown up in the door. I mean, right, is that your opinion? Is that what you say regarding Ponzi Scheme? Excellent. Right, hold that thought. Sorry, my intermission to clean up dog sick. I am back now. Ponzi Scheme, I was saying. Yeah, Ponzi Scheme, game I played a while ago. I really enjoyed it. It's to do with, obviously, Ponzi schemes, and you're setting them up and trying to reap your money out of them and stitch everyone else up. I remember it being a really fun game, and it looked dry. It looked like it was going to be this dry financial game, but actually it was quite a lot of fun. So this one's been given a makeover by Bright Eye in that it's a used car salesman-y type vibe to it. I'm on board. I would like it in my collection. It's one of those games that I played, fond memories of. It was really hard to track down, silly money. So pick this up at a reasonable price. I'm on board. Colour me interested. Slay the Spire is going to be there. It's some eye-watering amount of $170. I think that's the collector's edition. Slay the Spire is a digital game that I absolutely adore. It's a roguelike game of you basically building these increasingly deranged combinations of powers by getting cards. It's a card-based game. You're ascending essentially up this spire, which is randomized every time in the video game you play it against various different mini bosses, sub bosses, and big bosses, and you're just generating these characters, or this character, by buying these cards into your deck that just kind of do wildly crazy powers. You can OP yourself ridiculously. I've had games where it's insane what you can do. I still come down to the side of I don't know how this could simulate that. Great, take that and kind of distill it down into a ball game without it being incredibly either convoluted, fiddly, or just missing the mark. I've heard very good things about this, and the fact that it plays up to 4 players is interesting because it's something I would like to play around with people. I'm on the fence at the moment. I will wait and see it comes to retail, see how much it is at retail. I still, part of me goes, $170 for a game that you could pick up on Steam for about $10. Kind of makes me go, and without all the overhead and all of that shit, all the bookkeeping, you kind of go, well, I just play the digital equivalent. But I'll keep a vaguely open mind onto it and see. Clank Catacombs, there's an expansion coming for that, which is interesting. Jamie has Clank Catacombs, and I think also Ben has. I really enjoy it because I think it's like Clank 2.0, because it takes the basic idea of the Clank game, which is you delving into a dungeon and then grabbing stuff and then legging it back out before the game ends. But this one, you build the dungeon map as you play, which is kind of like you go, oh, this is a genius idea. Why didn't do it out of the box? So I really enjoy that. So I'd be fascinated to see what that involves. Wrath of the Fire Mountain, which is a game coming from Phil Walker-Harding and Eric Lang. It looks a bit like a Survive style game. It's on a volcanic island with dinosaurs. It looks quite fun and light. It's got 2 fairly heavyweight designers behind it. So colour me interested, especially if it plays at that sort of lighter level Lang, I always enjoy some of his designs. He's usually a very streamlined designer with his games, and Phil Walker-Harding is no slouch in that department. So colour me again, quite interested. Escape from New York, that's from Kevin Wilson. It was kickstarted last year, I want to say. I was on the fence on this because everyone loves a John Carpenter, everyone loves Escape from New York. I had The Thing, which is the previous game by these guys, whose publishing name is now escaping me. I'm going to quickly cast my eye behind and if I can see The Thing game. I can't! Oh well, that went more. I tried. Can't see it. Anyway, by those guys. And I enjoyed it, though it really plays better with the high player counts. This was one I was interested in having. I wasn't quite sold on it. So I'm going to wait for retail for this one because it started to have a lot of add-ons and it started getting quite expensive. But I might wait. I'm going to wait for retail and see how it comes out at retail price, and see how it plays and see what the feedback is on it. And if it's in any way good, then I will add it to my collection because everyone likes a John Carpenter ball game, do they not? What else do I see? Lumberjacks with rocket launchers, just purely for that title alone. It looks like there's some sort of card-based take that game with rockets that fly around the table, card-based, and they zero in on people, but just purely for the lumberjacks and rocket launchers alone, and it just looks silly. Maybe. This game is killer. Alien Board. I think this game is killer as a previous game. I think it's a bit like Werewolf, but this is Alien focused on it, so Alien. A party game, it's up to 10. Interesting, because we all like an Alien game, and this is clearly taking its reference from Alien. So if that's any good, maybe. Though I have lots of those type of games, but, aliens. Space Lions! Just divide and conquer. Purely on the realms of many, many years. Bob, who's a total and utter idiot, has always referred to Twilight Imperium, that game with the lion on the box. I don't think he's ever actually played Twilight Imperium. He has played Twilight Inscription. So this Space Lions, Divide and Conquer, initially just because of the stupid name, kind of drew me in. It looks vaguely interesting. It's up to 5 players. You have battles with armies, and it's card-based, so you kind of put out 3 rows of your army onto the board, and they're all kind of different asynchronous decks of army that you play and how you factor it in and do it, and then you fight each other. It sounds a little bit like Lords of War, which is a game many years ago now, which Black Box Games put out, and sadly the company went belly up because of stupidity from one of the partners doing dodgy things. But I always really enjoyed Lords of War. It was a 2-player game, like card-based sort of stuff. It was similar to Summoner's Wars, but I enjoyed that more, and it was beautiful art by Steve Cox on it. I still have it all down there. I'm going to maybe dig it up and show you later on. Maybe I'll do a retrospective on Lords of War. But I really enjoyed what it did and the mechanisms of it, because it basically had a tabletop war game, but using cards. If this does something similar, colour me interested. So that's Space Alliance Divide and Conquer. Comic Hunters, finally getting UK, the English press release. This was, I think, a Brazilian game, came out and it was only available in Brazil, although it was non-language dependent, and a lot of people were importing it in at quite extortionate amounts of money, unfortunately. Really interested in it because it's the idea of basically you comic collecting as a board game. Did a bit of that in my time. It's got Marvel all over it. It actually is Marvel licensed on there, I believe. I don't think that's all that's in there. But yeah, the idea of a comic collecting board game, I am interested in that. An English language version at a more reasonable price. Hey, yes, most certainly interested in it. So let's see how that comes out and what that's like. And then Mandalorian Adventures, which is the new game from Corey Koenigsegger. It's not FFG. It's kind of like they've licensed it to these guys to do the Mando game. It looks quite Jaws of the Lion, Gloomhaven-ish in that its mechanisms is card-based. It's got the book that you open and you play adventures on the game. It's got some legacy-ish elements, I think, but resettable. Everyone likes a campaign game. Everyone likes Mandalorian. So yeah, that is another one that I'm like, ooh, maybe. It was at the expo, but unfortunately I was dying, so I saw it from afar. I never really had a chance to sit down and focus on it. So there's that. Other bits and pieces going on. Obviously, Arcs has got a massive buzz. So Shut Up and Sit Down put a video saying it's the best game that ever existed ever. So cue everyone buying that, whether they need it or not. Played it at the expo, and I have some video footage of me playing at the expo, the demo we had, which I might splice into here. I don't know, because I have got stuff filmed. For the money of my limited, distilled down version of the game I played, it was interesting in that it's a 4X game. It's card based. It's kind of kind of a trick taking game in that you're putting cards down that then steer what you're doing that round on how, so you're limited in the actions you've got depending on what cards you've got in your hand. But the designer of Oath and Root, with this sci-fi theme to it, base game looks fascinating, and I think it's relatively reasonable price on the base game. However, there is then this substantial box of campaign that you can add to it, which is like double the price of the base game. And by all counts, the campaign thing is very interesting and stuff. That's kind of where I pause, because I'm like, well, actually, you're actually looking at a 200 quid game, not a 40, 50 pound game, because actually, are you really going to need the expansion? Sounds like you are. So I'm going to wait and see and watch from afar on that one. But I was interested in what I did at the game I played at the expo. We had to say it was very limited. You had basically a couple of actions. You played one round, so you just had a chance to get a flavour of it. And of the flavour I got of it, I quite enjoyed it, especially because I attacked Jeremy and decimated his armies just for shits and giggles. In the longer play, how that works out, how the meta works in the game, how it works, it's essentially is offering you a 4X space TI4 type game, but in a much more compressed time period. If it does all those things, but at the moment, the price is kind of making me go, so I'll wait and see. I'm not going to panic about it, because it's now going to be impossible to get because of Shut Up and Sit Down. So we'll just wait for the dust to clear and then see what happens. Finally on that, Plaid Hat Games just put a Kickstarter out for the third of their Crossroads game in the Forgotten Waters and Freelancers. This is the third one, which is Wandering Galaxy, which again uses an app and uses the book style, where the book is open in front of you, put stuff down and you interact as a team and do stuff. Both of the previous games I really enjoyed. I thought Freelancers was amazingly good fun. I mean, the pirate one was great, but the Freelancers really kind of had this post-apocalyptic Adventure Time vibe, and the narration and all that sort of stuff was fantastic in the app. Really fun, really stupid, some quite funny humour in there. And giving you an RPG campaign, but in an evening. So this is you flying around in the galaxy, I think all in a ship, kind of Star Trek-y kind of stuff, and trying to accrue money, like get space chocker type vibes to it, a bit of mix of all that, with these mechanisms that they've used in the previous two games, with narration and all that sort of stuff. So all of that, I'm like, ooh. So the Kickstarter's reasonably priced, and they're saying they're going to deliver in December this year for this. So they must be ready to go. It's obviously going to hit retail at about a similar time. So you're getting a discount on this. With postage and packing, I mean, you're not really going to get much of a win, I think, for the UK backer. So I might just wait for it to hit retail. But it is there. It's an opportunity, essentially kind of a pre-order to get it probably in December rather than maybe later in the year for everyone else. I'm not that panicky to get it. Definitely freelancers, if you've not played it, I should say go and hunt that down and play that because that was really good fun. And this one is like, yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested in that. And that's that. Other than that, what else has gone on? Watch the stuff. Well, so House of the Dragon, still watching that. That's ramping up. I've read the Fire and Blood book, so I kind of know what's going on with that. It's quite interesting to watch how they've kind of tweaked some of the story and moved things around just to kind of get it. And because essentially the book it's based on is this sort of historic text, which kind of gives you vague ideas of what may or may not have happened during this period of time. So they've taken that and kind of rolling with it. And it does all the Game of Thrones stuff you'd expect, which is betrayal, backstabbing, dragons, mayhem, violence, boobies, stuff like that. All good fun. So I'm enjoying that. Furiosa, I watched that the other day because it was on Prime. I was ill when it was on the cinema, so I didn't get to see it. I really would have liked to have seen it on the big screen. Hey, didn't get an option. It may still be on, but I don't think it is. But anyway, it was on Amazon, and so I forked out 20 quid and picked it up for the HD super duper version of it. I thought it was fascinating. I mean, Fury Road is an astounding movie. It's an absolutely up top tier action movies. It's fucking fantastic. If you've never seen Fury Road, what the fuck are you doing with yourself? Go and watch Fury Road. This isn't Fury Road. It is a prequel, and it does a lot more world building. And I'm on board for George Miller to do world building in Mad Max, because who doesn't want more of that? And it's kind of disjointed. It's over a bigger period of time, about 15 years. It follows Furiosa's backstory, and it does a lot of filling in of the gaps of that. Some of it successfully, some of it less so. I don't think it looks as good as Fury Road did. There's sometimes some overtly CGI-y feeling stuff. Some of it just feels like it's shot in a studio rather than out in the desert, whereas Fury Road all of it felt like it was shot out in the desert. So there's some little bits and pieces on that. But it's still what it is. It still looks absolutely gorgeous. It's got some astounding action sequences in it. Chris Hemsworth is... I really enjoyed his character in this. It's kind of deranged. It's a new look for him. I thought he was having a lovely time on this, playing this Dementus, which is kind of Trumpian, populist wasteland leader who's kind of stupid but talks a lot. He's an interesting character. Anya Taylor-Joy, brilliant as Furiosa. She gets a smaller part to play. Everyone in it is great. If you love Fury Road and want more of that, then this is kind of what you're getting with this kind of setting up. It expands the world, it expands the lore. It has some absolutely nuts action sequences. I don't think it's as good as Fury Road, but it's kind of adjacent to it as being something as even more batshit and crazy and out there than Fury Road was. And all of this world building and all of this shit. And you know what? I'm on board for that. It's not done great. Whether we'll ever see the third, because they were going to do a more Max-centric one of these, I don't know whether we're going to get that. Hey, but we've got these two, and this was all sorts of fun. So if you're a fan of that, then yes, go and watch it, because why wouldn't you? Acolyte, still going. That has improved over the last episode or so. I really enjoyed, they've kind of got a Sith kind of character into it, and they're kind of really leaning into that, how the Sith kind of manipulate and bring people to the fold. It's a weird show. It's been very disjointed. I'm going to sit down and see it runs through to the end, because I'm assuming we're going to get some more flashbacks that might fill out stuff. It's a weirdly constructed show. I think its earlier episodes let it down because it doesn't do enough character building for some of these characters to really make any of the stakes worthwhile. But the last couple of episodes have actually been really solid, and one's dropping, I think, today, so I'll watch that and see how it goes. I think there's about 8 episodes in this, and I think we're on about 6 at the moment, I think. But yeah, so the jury's out on it. I mean, it's got looks gorgeous and has some wonderful, especially fight sequences. Just the story is a bit muddy in there, and it's kind of... I don't know if we're dealing with unreliable narrators in this game, show if that's partly what's going on there, because it's kind of like you're going, well, what is going on? Anyway, so there's that, like, you know, enough has been said about that, I'm sure. And stuff. Other than that, I think that's it, really, for stuff. I've probably watched and seen other stuff. I'm still watching Banshee, which is fucking stupid. And that's it. Hello, so there you go. There's a video. That was me. This is some point in July. I will hopefully be able to pop more of these out. I still have the expo footage I need to try and do something with, but I don't really know what to do with that. So there you go. We've got Gen Con at the end of the month. We've got Spiel coming in October. All of this stuff. Do we need more games? Probably not. But you know. For the time being, it's been a pleasure to see you. Hello. Nice to be back. Have a lovely week. Play board games, of course, and I will see you soon for more of this nonsense, I'm sure, which will be nice, won't it? Bye-bye.